Politicon was over the weekend, and the main event to close the convention was the much-anticipated meeting between Tucker Carlson of Fox News and Cenk of the Young Turks, and I was as excited for this show as anybody. I stayed up late to watch it on Sunday night because I couldn't wait. But honestly, I was a little bit disappointed. Maybe it's just that my expectations were wrong. I was hoping for a little bit more of a debate like last year's event with Ben Shapiro, a more structured back and forth on adversarial terms. Both of these guys are known for tense exchanges. I guess I just wanted a little more blood sport appeal. That's not what the event was designed to be, though. It was promoted as a conversation, and mostly that's what we got. It was an informal discussion between these two that actually featured a fair amount of agreement and meandered any which way the participants wanted to direct it. And that was probably my main gripe. It wasn't really moderated at all. On several occasions, Cenk tried to corner Tucker into some gotcha endorsement of Cenk's ideas on speech and money in politics.
My question to you, Tucker, is do you believe in the 28th Amendment to get money out of politics? Do you think corporations should have the right to spend unlimited money in politics? Tucker, for a guy who's as vigilant about protecting speech, I am curious, and again, this is genuine, why you don't support the free speech rights of Colin Kaepernick.
Well, Cenk, for a guy who supposedly understands politics and government, I am curious, and again, this is genuine, how you don't see the difference between disagreeing with someone's speech and trying to silence it by force. Unless I just missed that episode where Tucker didn't just criticize Colin Kaepernick's message, but he actually tried to silence him. If that's out there, I'll happily take a look at it. More frustrating still, Cenk trying to corner Tucker on these issues actually had very little to do with the moderator's original prompts. The moderator only asked about two topics. The first was the oncoming caravan and immigration more generally.
And that is on the topic of immigration and the group of migrants who are coming to the U.S. border. About 5,000 migrants are on their way.
And the second was the current status of swamp draining in Washington.
What do you think we would need to get to actually drain the swamp? And then I want to get your thoughts on that too, Tucker.
So the whole thing was kind of disjointed and not really well structured or well organized. But there was one portion of this discussion that I found to be factually and philosophically important. Cenk kept returning back to something he obviously cares a lot about: the influence of money in politics. He says that campaign contributions are a form of bribery, and he doesn't consider money in politics to be a form of speech at all. Instead, he says money is an amplification method, like a megaphone, that unfairly stifles the speech of others.
Right now, what we have is an oligarchy of the few that have bought almost all of our politicians. Every other developed nation does not allow the rampant legalized bribery that we allow. So when you say, well, I don't mind political ads, well, it depends, doesn't it? Because it is a giant megaphone, and it can drown out all other speech.
And he says the only reason Trump was able to overcome that megaphone is because he was handed a megaphone of his own in the form of billions of dollars worth of supposedly free media coverage during the campaign.
So what did the Clintons buy with that $3 billion? They bought a giant megaphone. And yes, Donald Trump overcame it because he got $5 billion in free media in the election cycle. $5 billion, okay? But who did not overcome that megaphone? Every other Democratic contender. They were crushed by that microphone. And the reality is the Clintons shut out the speech of all other people with the bribes that they received. And I cannot abide by it.
Well, except for that time that you did abide by it.
I'm going to vote for Hillary Clinton.
But I get it. Oftentimes your vote is your judgment about the lesser of two evils, and obviously Hillary wasn't his first choice. I'm less concerned about that, and more concerned about the factual and philosophical integrity of his claims. Let's consider the facts first and the theory second. Cenk says Trump overcame Hillary's massive financial war chest only because he was given a supposed $5 billion worth of free media coverage. But if you look at the details of that claim, it's not as clear of an advantage as he suggests. First, the whole thing is a Hillary talking point. Cenk tosses her under the bus, but then parrots her lines uncritically. It's a claim that was published in Hillary's book, What Happened, and the piece that's omitted from that claim is that Hillary herself had over $3 billion worth of the same supposedly free media, but as this Washington Post analysis notes, it's more accurately called earned media. When you're a presidential nominee, you're gonna get news coverage, because what you do and what you say are newsworthy. And I don't even know how you quantify the monetary value of people just talking about the presidential race across media platforms, including the internet. It's the biggest story of the year. People are going to talk about it. Also note, this claim doesn't really make a distinction between positive and negative free media coverage. If MSNBC and CNN are ripping Trump around the clock, is that really advertising to his advantage? Well, maybe sometimes it actually is. But that's due to their own incompetence, not due to some corrupt cooperation between the campaign and the media outlet. Lastly, note that Trump's big advantage in this analysis is in online news, as the Washington Post writes, often driven by Trump's own tweets. Analysis from the Post and the Street say just the infamous Taco Bowl tweet alone generated $200 million worth of online buzz. When you look at the actual broadcast media, the difference between Trump and Hillary was negligible, both in the neighborhood of $600 or $700 million. But even if we grant this point, the idea that Trump had some sort of unearned boost in free promotion from news media, the question remains, why couldn't Hillary overcome Trump's phantom money with her real money? Additional Washington Post analysis shows when campaign funds, party funds, and political action committee or PAC funds are all considered, money raised and spent on behalf of Hillary in 2016 totaled $1.4 billion, almost 50% more than Trump's $957 million. And that figure includes advantages across all money forms, the campaigns themselves, money from the parties, and consider the advantage in super PACs. This is what Cenk is actually concerned with. When he talks about corruption, what I assume he means is that super PAC money, which unlike direct campaign contributions, is unregulated. If I as an individual want to give money to Trump or Hillary's campaign, I'm limited to $2,700 by federal law. But if I want to give to a super PAC, which by law cannot coordinate or cooperate with candidates or parties, but can still advertise for or against them, I can give as much as I want. And those super PACs operating in favor of Hillary's election dominated super PACs operating in favor of Trump by almost a 3-to-1 margin. If this is the corrupt megaphone Cenk is talking about, he needs to explain why the megaphone that was 3 times larger didn't actually blare its way into the Oval Office. And Cenk's case is further weakened when we look at how the primaries developed. Sure, Hillary dominated the Democratic field financially. He's right about that. But let's not forget, she also operated with the help of a corrupt party whose leadership threw the other candidates under the bus before resigning in disgrace and then being immediately hired onto Hillary's campaign team. There was much more in play in that process than just money. And if money is the sole explanatory factor, I need to know why it doesn't explain the Republican field at all. Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and even Ben Carson all outraised Trump, and that's over the entire course of the primary season. Even though Bush was gone after only 3 contests in February, Carson and Rubio were gone in March, and Cruz quit the race in May. And again, consider that supposedly corrupt super PAC money Cenk is worried about. Jeb Bush had a 50-to-1 advantage over Trump. Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio each had about 25-to-1 advantages over Trump. Even Ben Carson had a 5-to-1 advantage. Cenk says corporations are simply buying and bribing our political offices, and maybe there's better evidence for that. I don't know. But if there is, the 2016 presidential campaign he references is not it. At all. It's actually a counterexample. Remember that by law, these corporations cannot give directly to candidates for federal office. The only way they can support or oppose candidates is indirectly through these political action committees. Yet one by one, all the candidates most supported by indirect corporate money fell down, from Jeb Bush all the way through Hillary, until the man least supported by that money won the whole contest. While I can agree somewhat with Cenk's idea that money and speech aren't the same thing, that's not to say I'm in favor of additional regulation. I do consider them tantamount. It is to say that they're not identical, in that money is not a substitute for message in terms of political power. You can amplify a garbage message through a garbage candidate all you want. You can yell through that so-called megaphone all you want, but it doesn't inherently beat a better candidate with a better message with better ideas. And that is what attracts votes. Not the volume, but the veracity. 2016 demonstrated that truth. It did not, in fact, demonstrate Cenk's megaphone theory. If he's got better evidence, I'm happy to take a peek. but he's going to have to point me in the right direction. I'm not even sure where to look. Last year, he gave much more clear directions.
Once again, it's this wonderful capitalist invention called Google. Google it.
Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel always. Appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below and especially over on Twitter. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to come hang out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Okay, bye.